We just interviewed one of the most important and famous archaeologists in the world. He is the real life Indiana Jones. He is the legendary, the one and only Dr. Zahi Hawass. Hi guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Ancient Library podcast. As Luke and I promised, we finally delivered and invited Dr. Zahi Hawass to be our very first guest. So, without further ado, we bring to you Dr. Zahi Hawass.
So, Dr. Hawass, it's a absolute pleasure to have you on here. You are one of the most famous archaeologists in the world, and I know we recently connected when we met on your tour this year. I believe this was your first big tour around the U.S., and I would love to hear more about it.
I think there's never been a tour like this happen before.
Yeah.
I give 23 lectures in 23 cities. The audience was from 1800 to 2000, and before I met VIPs about 100. And it was the most interesting tour I ever did in my life. I really enjoyed meeting the people, answering the questions of everyone. It was amazing. And I will repeat this tour next May and June in Canada and the other cities in US.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, there's a lot of people there. I went with one of my friends, and I felt like I was, you were just a rock star up there. It was like you said, nothing like that has really been done before. And that was awesome. This is Yvonne, by the way. He started Ancient Library a while ago. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce him. So
It is a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Hawass. I'm Ivan. I'm from Croatia, and I started with this project called Ancient Library some 12 years ago. And the page, which is now has over 1.5 million followers, loves history, loves archaeology, loves everything that has to do with Egypt. Absolutely. So it is an absolute pleasure for us to have you on this podcast, on this page. And I think 1.5 million people that follow us will absolutely love this, and they would love to know more about you. So it is a great honor to have you on this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that's awesome. You're doing another tour. We'll definitely try to check that out. I did have one question about the tour. So I noticed there weren't many young people there in the audience. I must have been me and my friend, the only ones in our 20s. And that's kind of something I was wondering, and I ask myself a lot, and that Yvonne and I try to do with Ancient Libraries and engage younger people and get them into understanding history. Why do you think there aren't many young people as interested in history?
No, there was. I was amazed with the number of young people in every city. There was 8 years old and 10 years
Really?
old, 20 years old. There was many young people in my tour.
Really, I'm sure a lot in Los Angeles too. Los Angeles is a lot bigger city than St. Louis, obviously. But
I mean, not in Los Angeles. I'm talking about every city.
Yeah.
That I did lecture. The number of the young people are more than the younger of the old the number of the old people.
Yeah.
I think that speaks about you a lot, because to get younger people to attend, to listen to you, that speaks about yourself and how much of a mark you left behind in the field of archaeology, and how much you've helped promote Egypt as a country and its history.
Look how many people saw the Netflix recent film Unknown.
Yes.
It is the top number one around the world. And what I understood, that there was many young people saw this show more than old people.
Yes.
Young people are more interested in archaeology than anyone, because they think archaeology is an adventure, and therefore they follow my adventure. Like the work that I'm doing now in the Valley of the Kings, searching for the tomb of Queen Nefertiti, and also the project that I'm using with DNA, searching for the mummy of Nefertiti and Ankhesenamun, and also working in Saqqara, searching for the lost pyramid, working in the Golden City. Amazing work that I will start in this coming September. And the most important is I'm going to look what's behind the doors that I found inside the Great Pyramid and what's underneath the new corridor. The whole world are really watching and waiting to see the result of my work this year.
And that speaks a lot. I mean, yes, as you've told us, and as we've all have already seen, the your documentary on Netflix has been so popular. And again, I think that it has been popular and it is popular just because the way you bring archaeology and Egyptology to people, you have this unique way of transferring knowledge, and I think that a lot of people identify with you because of that. So your personality, I think, is what makes watching this so great. And for example, when I watched the documentary, I was amazed by how well it was produced, but I also noticed a small sense of humor and joy, which breaks down this field of archaeology, which is something very important and serious. And so this small dose of humor and smiles just gives it another level. And I think that's also why it has been so popular.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. And when I see that archaeology became popular, this really makes me happy. And I always like young people that they can watch the adventures that I'm doing in archaeology.
And while we're speaking about now the documentary that you filmed, are you planning to do more similar documentaries?
Yes, I'm now in Los Angeles. I'm giving a talk on Saturday at Bauer Museum, and also on the 24th in Bowling Green, Kentucky. But during this time, actually today, I'm having a meeting to talk about the second project of the TV that I'm doing with Netflix and others.
Well, that is so amazing. So, can you give us any spoilers about what it's going to be about, or can you reveal us more?
It is one is about the new cemetery that I found for the priestess, the women priestess of the god Ammon, that I'm excavating on September 15th, and it will be north of the Golden City, and also to continue the adventure in Saqqara with Netflix.
Amazing, amazing. So I very much look forward to seeing this. I mean, this documentary was so popular. I can only imagine this one will be even more so, I think. What do you think, Luke?
Well, yeah, with this one too, when I finished it, I was like, okay, when's the next one coming out? Where's more?
I want more.
It leaves you like craving more afterwards.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's actually strange.
I'm starting shooting in September in 2 films, one for National Geographic about the search of the mummy of Queen Nefertiti, and one for BBC about the new cemetery of women, priestess of the god Amun.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So I know you had been vocal about this too. It was a documentary on Netflix. That recent Cleopatra one. Personally, I thought it was a disgrace how they portrayed her. Really historically inaccurate, and I know you were on, the forefront of speaking out against that as well.
I said if they show Cleopatra blonde, I will object.
Yes.
Black, I will object. Because
Yes.
Cleopatra was not black or blonde. And therefore, Cleopatra was a Macedonian. The mistake that the black people are making, that they do not know that the kingdom of Kush ruled Egypt at the late period, on Dynasty 25, when the Egyptian history was finished. They have nothing to do before that. And if you look at the scenes of a king smiting an enemy, you will see that the king's face is different from the face of an Nubian or an African or a Libyan or an Asian. And therefore, the Black kingdom in Kos had nothing to do with ancient Egypt at all. This is a big mistake and confusing the Black people in South America and North America.
Yeah, I see a lot of that, just people arguing online back and forth about this. Yvonne and I on the page, we've talked about the Olmecs in Mesoamerica.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people think they were Africans too, and it's like they didn't travel to South America thousands of years ago.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of
I even think there was a DNA study that literally verified that Olmecs are
no, you don't. You don't need to do DNA study. You look at the record in the history. It tells you the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want this controversy, and I think this controversy is what eventually, tries to undermine archaeology. So because people obviously love controversial subjects, they love to come out and have their opinion voiced and say, this is like this, don't listen to the scientists or whatever. But at the end of the day, as you, Dr. Hawass, said, the records are there and the science is there. So the only thing we need to do is look at it, look at the evidence.
Exactly. Yes.
And I wanted to speak more about Cleopatra, since her grave was never found. And if
I have been searching for the tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony in cooperation with Kathleen Martinez from the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with her for 11 years inside a temple called Tab Osiris Magna, west of Alexandria. And we found inside coins of Cleopatra, one study of Cleopatra, but never discovered anything about her tomb. And therefore, I really believe now that Cleopatra built a palace, and next to the palace, she built a tomb for herself. I really think that she was buried inside this tomb that's now under the water.
So is it like near Heraklion, Tonis, or?
It is in the area of Alexandria, in the port of Gabal of Silsila, which is Shati, the royal quarter in the time of the Ptolemaic period.
Mm-hmm.
The royal quarter is an area called Shati.
Okay.
And all the palaces of the Ptolemaic were really built in this area, and all these palaces are under the water now.
So you think that the tomb of Cleopatra is under the ocean?
Yes, exactly.
Submerged. Wow, that is amazing. So, and like, if you could discover just one thing in your career that would be like the biggest thing, would you have it to be the tomb of Cleopatra?
No,
like,
no,
would
no,
that be the best thing? No?
No, it will be the tomb of Queen Nefertiti.
The tomb of Queen Nefertiti.
That I'm looking for right now.
And can you tell us why? Why is the tomb of Queen Nefertiti so much more important than the tomb of Cleopatra?
Nefertiti is famous. She was the queen of a famous king, Akhenaten. And, it's more impressive to discover a tomb that dated to the pharaonic period than discovering a tomb that dated to the Greek period. Cleopatra became famous because of her story with Mark Antony and Caesar, but we have very little about her. And there is no way that her tomb could be discovered intact. And therefore, I really think that the tomb of Nefertiti will be the most important one.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because, people, when you speak about, Egypt and you speak about Cleopatra, she's like the most famous queen out there in terms for people. But obviously, there were other very important women in ancient Egypt that had a great influence. And as you said, Queen Nefertiti is definitely one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Cleopatra's kind of like you said too, she's very romanticized. I think she's known for her relationship with, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and then on top of that, Hollywood movies and stuff and documentaries. I think just society as a whole likes to romanticize her and that love story as well.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's why people prefer like like if you were to find the tomb of Queen Cleopatra, people would get really excited, and I think it would get even more like media for that
Yeah,
discovery versus Queen Nefertiti. Even though, like, for archaeologists such as yourself, who this is your life's work, I think, yeah. So Queen Nefertiti will be
I
definitely
always
a big one.
I always say that we found until now 30% only of our monuments, and it's
Awesome.
still there is 70% is buried underneath the ground, and you never know what the sand of Egypt might hide of secrets. Maybe in the future, the tomb of Cleopatra can be discovered, the tomb of Nefertiti. We have many important discoveries that we need to do in the future.
That's why I wanted to ask you, because I love Egypt. I love Egypt's history, and I wanted to ask you, like, how much of Egypt have you, of ancient Egypt, have we excavated? So you think around 13% only?
Only 30%.
Wow. So that's an
Insane.
entire world beneath the surface. Like,
Exactly.
that's so incredible. And that's obviously under the surface, right? But under the water, do you think there are more important discoveries there waiting to be discovered, such as Heraklion and Tonis, maybe? Or
You know, there is many expeditions are working now in Abu Qir and Alexandria, and there is cities. Two cities were found under the water, and many palaces of kings, and really great discoveries happened. And there was an exhibit touring the states and the whole world about the artifacts that came from the underwater.
that is so amazing. And I want, since, like, Egypt, the modern Egypt was built over ancient Egypt. Do you think that many discoveries are waiting to be made beneath cities that have, like,
Oh
modern cities
yeah, and
that have been built?
now if you discover underneath houses, you can discover monuments in Aswan, in Luxor, Akhmim, Heliopolis, Alexandria. Many monuments every day discovered underneath the houses.
And, like, how do you, in terms of preservation of these monuments, because obviously that history is it's so valuable. How do you, as archaeologists, work to preserve these sites? And, like, what happens if someone has, like, say, a house, and for like some reason they went excavating and found a huge monument beneath it? How does archaeology work to preserve those monuments? And, like, what happens to the modern version of Egypt, the houses of people? So, like, what
We
takes place?
have we have a law in
Okay.
all these sites. If anyone try to rebuild his house, he has to go to the Antiquities department, take a permission, and the Antiquities department will send inspectors to look at the foundation. If there is something discovered that can be taken, they take it. If anything they cannot take it outside, the Antiquities pay compensation to the people, and they take the land.
They take the land, and so the people need to move, basically, right?
Exactly, yes.
So I assume that, out of, you said that only 13% of ancient Egypt has been discovered to date. So I assume that a lot of that percentage that's still waiting to be discovered is located beneath modern cities, especially Cairo, I think, right?
Everywhere, not Cairo, it's everywhere, from Aswan up to Alexandria.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And so, since we were talking about your documentary, The Lost Pyramid, I love pyramids. I've written a lot about pyramids across the world. Obviously, the pyramids of Egypt are special. They're special because people are in love with it, and it's also the only ancient wonder of the world that's still standing today, despite so many thousands of years that have passed. Can you tell me, how many more pyramids do you think that exist in Egypt?
I searched all the number of pyramids in Egypt. There are 120 pyramids of kings and queens from Dynasty 3 up to Amosi of the beginning of the New Kingdom. And we still discover my excavation around the pyramid of Titi. I found a pyramid of a queen. Her name was Neat. Then always under the sand, still many pyramids are buried, especially in the area of Saqqara.
So Saqqara, yeah, it's one of the most important places in Egypt. And I wanted to ask you, so, like, a lot of this stuff is beneath the surface, and I know a lot of discoveries, and for example, in America, and South America, and North America, have been made with the help of LiDAR technology, which basically scans from the air the terrain underneath and creates 3D maps. are you using this sort of technology in Egypt to make discoveries?
No, you do not need that.
You don't need
Because
LiDAR?
if you walk in Saqqara, you can see walls underneath. You do not need to make satellite images or anything like that. Because Egypt is a very rich land. And everywhere, whatever you excavate, you'll discover a tomb or a statue.
Like, I can't imagine that, for example, Croatia and Egypt are so different. Like, here, the history is obviously rich, but like, the history of Egypt is so gigantic, enormous, that I don't think, Luke, I don't know if you agree with me, can we compare ancient Egypt to any other period in history? Like,
No,
I mean,
you can't.
there were many great civilizations across the world, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Africa as well, other than Egypt, in South America, North America. But like, can we really compare ancient Egypt to anything there?
No, not at all. I don't think so. And this is why when I took that DNA test thing, I think a couple years ago, and I found out I had Egyptian in me, I was so excited because I was like, wow, my ancestors were great builders.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm mostly Italian, so I assume I got that Egyptian blood in me through Roman occupied Egypt.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That is so amazing.
But I was excited by that. But nothing, like you said, nothing compares. Even Mesopotamia.
Great, Mesopotamia, great. I mean, very important,
but not Egypt.
Period, but like Egypt is, and I don't know. It's like people, when people speak about Egypt, they speak about pyramids, but Egypt has so much more to offer. Like from temples to lost cities to monuments that go beyond the imagination. So it's sort of like, I feel sort of sad when people speak about Egypt and only mention like pyramids, because pyramids are great, and there are many, as Dr. Hawass said, 120 pyramids. But if you agree with me, Dr. Hawass, Egypt has so much more to offer, right?
Of course.
And
you can see this clearly through our excavation.
Yes.
I mean, in Luxor, I re-excavating inside the tomb of Ramses II. We still discover many things. I'm working in the Valley of the Kings. I found 2 tombs, the Golden City, as the most important discovery that happened for year 2021. Major important discoveries happening every day in Egypt.
So the Golden City is Saud Atun, the rise of Aten? Was it that
yes,
city?
It is.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
It is dated to the reign of Amenhotep III.
Mm-hmm.
He called it the dazzling Aton. This city, located to the north of the temple of Amenhotep III, it's a big, large city. Inside, there was royal workshops for making leather, jewelry, clothing, children toys, statues, many interesting things. And this is inside one of the houses. I call it the House of Aton. Found a scene of Aton, and it is the first time that we have an idea about the people who make this great civilization in the time of the Golden Age, the time of Amenhotep III.
That is amazing, and some experts are calling this the second most important archaeological discovery since the tomb of King Tut. Would you agree?
It's true.
So it's right there. And what would you say? So let's say the discovery of King Tut was the tomb of King Tut was number 1. Say the Golden City is 2. What would you say is the third most important archaeological discovery in ancient Egypt?
I think the solar boat of Khufu. You have many interesting things.
The solar boat of Khufu, yeah. So that was found at the footsteps of the pyramid, right?
In 1954.
Right. That is amazing, and that just tells you how rich of a history ancient Egypt has.
Yes.
And I just wanted, since a lot of people are going to see this, and a lot of them will probably end up visiting Egypt, what would you tell people who will come to Egypt to go sightseeing? What can they see other than pyramids? Like, what can you tell them as the great archaeologist?
If you come to Egypt, I wrote a book called Zahi Hawass, Secret Egypt, and I said you can make 11 tours and you still see new things. You travel to the pyramids, Saqqara, and you go to Luxor, Edfu, Komombo, Aswan, Abu Simbel, temples and tombs and museums everywhere. You need to come 3 or 4 times at least
Oh yeah.
to see some of ancient Egypt.
So basically, if I were to travel today to Egypt, say for 10 days, how much of ancient Egypt could I see in 10 days?
I think in 10 days you can go to Pyramid, Saqqara, the Civilization Museum, Cairo Museum, and you take 4 days cruise down the Nile from Luxor to Aswan.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. And hopefully in the near future, I will be there with my wife.
Okay.
And I think we are going to travel together one day.
Thank you.
I have another question. Since we're speaking about pyramids, and not a lot of people know about the so-called provincial pyramids. I wanted to help our viewers understand what the provincial pyramids are and how they're different from other pyramids.
I think those pyramids, they were not for burial.
Mm-hmm.
There was kind of representing the mound, the primeval mound, that the king will build his palace behind this mound when you go to collect taxes.
Mm-hmm. So basically, there were like statues that show the strength of the king or the power.
I think we have like 7 of those pyramids.
Right. Very, very interesting. And while we're speaking about pyramids, one of my favorite pyramids, obviously, is the Step Pyramid of Saqqara of King Djoser. It is considered the earliest and largest stone-cut structure in Egypt. Is it really the oldest and the first one?
It is built by Imhotep. It is the first stone pyramid built in Egypt, dated back 4,900 years ago.
That is so amazing. And there's this structure that is located near the Step Pyramid, the Great Enclosure. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Great Enclosure and what it is?
You know, it is the enclosure that's surrounding the Step Pyramid. With an inside, there was the temples and the South Tomb and the South Court and the North Court and the Funerary Temple and all of this kind of things surrounding with this wall.
Amazing. And if you were to say who your favorite pharaoh was in Egypt, who would that
Khufu.
be?
Was Khufu. Yes.
Really? Because of the Great Pyramid?
Yes.
My favorite is Neferu, his father. And why? Because he's the greatest pyramid builder. He built the most amazing pyramids, right? And as an archaeologist, do you consider Neferu to be like the most important pyramid builder in the history of Egypt?
It is. You know, I think in his time, he moved more than 6 million stones. But still my favorite is Khufu, because I wrote books about Khufu and I wrote my doctorate about Khufu and the pyramid complex and Giza Plateau.
That is amazing.
Was really, I think that's enough. Was very nice meeting you and talking to you, and I hope we'll talk again in the future.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll let you go too. So we thank you so much for your time.
You are welcome.
One last question. Aside from Egypt, what other culture interests you to learn about, like Mesopotamia?
You know, I mean Greek, Roman are really interesting. Mesopotamia, South America.
Yeah.
There are many other great civilizations that really I admire very much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so everyone, Dr. Hawass will be touring next year. Make sure to keep posted and on his website.
And guys, make sure to visit. We're gonna post the websites and pages from Dr. Hawass. Thank you so much for being here, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was intense too. Very intense.
That was very intense.
That's not my first time meeting him, but it's. I knew what to expect, but every time I've talked to him on the phone or in person or here, each time has been like just
it was
1,000 levels higher.
It was really crazy. I enjoyed it very much. He seems like such a cool guy, and I like the way he loves history so much, and I think this is just amazing. It was an amazing experience, man. And when we told people, when we were telling people, we were gonna start off this podcast with something big, we went big.
Yeah, real big.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and,
There you
and
go,
I know
guys. There you go. We started off like
that's the special guest that we were.
that was the
teasing
special one, yeah.
about in the live stream. So
So
that's
there
who
you
it
have it.
was. We're gonna have many more big special guests too.
And
This is the first
and
one.
also it's important to say this. Participate and engage with the page Ancient Library, because we are going to invite random people into this podcast and talk about history, and we're also going to have giveaways. So make sure you follow us on Facebook if you're not already. 1.5 million people are following us there, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more stuff like this. So do it if you haven't.
I'm gonna include a link in the description. So
Yeah. Right
until
there.
then,
Until
we'll
then,
see you next time.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was a cool experience for you, as it has been for us. And make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. You know how that goes. Blah, 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 blah. And thank you for watching. You guys are amazing. And until the next video.